Hello, and thanks for joining me. This is an open letter to the students at King's Academy in West Palm Beach, Florida. My name is David John Wellman, and I am an atheist. Now, I'm not sure how or where you're watching this video. If your faculty decides to show you this video, I hope they have the courage and integrity to show you the full video, rather than a heavily edited portion of it. If you found this video on your own initiative, then congratulations and a very warm welcome to you. Either way, to respect your time, I'll try to be as brief and as succinct as possible. By the way, you may be wondering why I'm showing you these pretty colors rather than my face. The answer is, I sound a lot better than I look. Just trust me on that, okay? So, you're learning Christian apologetics at your school. This is the practice of defending the Christian worldview against objections. One thing that your school says it has done in the past is atheist encounters, where you actually hear from an atheist. However, as far as I'm aware, they have only made 2 such encounters public on YouTube, which is where I'm posting this video. One was showing you a heavily edited video of an atheist presenting objections to Christianity, followed by a good long while of allowing students to respond to him without the atheist actually being there to defend himself. The video they showed was so quick, so rapid-fire and compressed that it kind of had the feeling of pulling a band-aid off. Or, what I think is a much more appropriate metaphor, of receiving an inoculation shot. A quick bit of discomfort and then it's over and you've been exposed to it so you don't have to seriously think about it anymore. The other video, of course, was of Sean McDowell, a noteworthy Christian apologist, pretending to be an atheist. So as far as I can tell, you have not had any meaningful encounters with an actual atheist. Perhaps this is by design. Perhaps your instructors do not want you exposed to atheists until you have been inoculated, so to speak. But one of the messages I'm going to want to leave you with is that critically assessing your worldview is, or should be, a lifelong process. To kind of show you what I mean, I'd like to give you what is currently my favorite argument for atheism. It's not a very well-known argument, and it doesn't have an official name in the literature, so I call it the temporal cosmological argument. It's a simple syllogism, and it goes like this. Everything that has a cause has a temporal cause. The universe does not have a temporal cause. Therefore, the universe does not have a cause. The word temporal in this case means something that exists inside of time, rather than outside of time or in a state of timelessness. If you think about all the things that we know were caused to exist, such as bicycles, the Eiffel Tower, and you and me, they all have causes that exist inside of time. Bicycles were made at a bicycle factory, which exists inside of time. The Eiffel Tower was made by a whole bunch of builders and craftsmen, who all existed inside of time, as did their materials. You and I were made by our parents, who all existed inside of time. So we have very good reason to think that the first premise is true. And the second premise is obviously true because if time itself has a cause, then it can't be inside of time. And the conclusion follows necessarily from the premises. Now, before I tell you why this is my favorite argument, I'd like you to pause the video just for a moment and either think about the argument and how you would respond to it, or if you're in a group setting, discuss it amongst yourselves. Come back when you're ready. Okay, welcome back. This is not my favorite argument because it is irrefutable. If you did what I asked and paused the video to discuss it, you've probably already thought of a refutation. Rather, this is my favorite argument because it teaches you something that you can't unlearn. Whatever refutation you thought of against this argument, the same basic idea can be applied to this argument. This is the Kalam cosmological argument, and if you haven't already learned it, you will certainly learn it at some point. The major premise is, whatever begins to exist has a cause for its existence. It too is a simple syllogism. Whatever begins to exist has a cause, the universe began to exist, therefore the universe has a cause. Now, whatever you thought of to reject the idea that everything that has a cause has a temporal cause, the same basic idea can be used to reject the idea that whatever begins to exist has a cause. For example, if you told yourselves that our experiences of things inside the universe can't be used to make reliable inferences about the universe itself, then that's true for both major premises, the major premise of the temporal argument and the major premise of the Kalam argument. If you told yourself that the universe is a special case when it comes to being caused but needing a temporal cause, then we can say that the universe is a special case when it comes to beginning to exist but needing a cause at all. If you say that the universe is a special case when it comes to one of these premises, then surely one can say that it's a special case when it comes to both of these premises. Because if you get to say that our experience is wrong when it comes to the universe, why don't we get to say that? If you think about the way both premises are supported by appealing to our everyday experience, you'll understand why they both suffer from the same problem. The temporal cosmological argument isn't a silver bullet to convince you that God doesn't exist. There is no silver bullet. If there were, we'd all either be Christians or all be atheists. Rather, it's meant to convince you that one of the most important contemporary arguments to provide rational justification for Christianity is dialectically ineffective, which is a fancy way of saying it's unconvincing to anyone who isn't already convinced. With any luck, this will tempt you into discovering for yourself why the other attempted rational justifications for Christianity are also ineffective. Now, I'd like to respond to some things that you students at King's Academy said in the video where you played the atheist video and responded to it. If you're watching this and you spoke in that previous video, I really do apologize for putting you on the spot like this. It's definitely nothing personal. But the things you said call for a response, and they can be responded to, and it's important that you know this.
And the thing about sending people to hell, it's not really sending like a maniac and a normal atheist. It's more of like you're choosing to be without God, so it's the same. It's not that he hates you. That's what you chose.
I'm guessing you might have been taught that there's no such thing as an atheist, that all the atheists really do believe that God exists and are just pretending not to. That is false. We genuinely do not believe that God exists. So choosing to be with him or not is not a live choice. It's like choosing to be with Peter Pan or not. We can't do that because we don't believe that Peter Pan exists.
Like if God just shows up in the middle of this gym and says, "Believe in me," all the non-believers now feel like forced. And like if you actively seek him and try to make a relationship, you're building the free will with him.
The first day you came to class, and the person leading that class appeared before you for the first time, you had no choice but to believe that that instructor exists. Because he was right there, how could you not believe? Did your instructor therefore significantly interfere with your free will? Should he have not appeared before you so that you could choose to not believe that he exists? Of course not. In fact, he gave you several new choices. You could choose to interact with him. You could choose to talk with him. You could choose to ignore him. Many choices which were not available to you when you did not believe your instructor existed now become available to you. When you come to learn that someone exists, your free will has not been curtailed. It has been expanded.
So a little distance makes room for a better response to God.
We're not talking a little distance. If your instructor only makes himself available to you during class and office hours, that's a little distance. If your mom says, "Go study in the other room right now, I've got some work to do," that's a little distance. God, if he exists, never appears before us, never talks to us the way your mom or your instructor talks to you, never makes himself known to you in any unambiguous way. That's not a little distance. That's not even a lot of distance. It's a universe of distance. And it's not nearly as conducive to a loving relationship as we have a right to expect based on our experience with other loving relationships. Especially if, as many if not most of you believe, that loving relationship is necessary in order to literally not be tortured for an infinite period of time. Belief in God may not be sufficient for salvation, but if it is necessary for salvation, and if I'm God, then while I may prefer that belief in me come in the context of a loving relationship, while that may be ideal, I will absolutely, if necessary, compel them to believe that I exist. And so would any loving being, and if you don't agree, then you and I have very different ideas about what love is. And by the way, if I sound angry right now, because it's a common stereotype among apologists that atheists are all angry, ask yourself this. If you tell me that I deserve to be tortured, what gives you the right to expect that I'll be chill about it? Would you be chill about it?
Why doesn't God just come down and show himself and just like appear to everyone? The reason he doesn't do that is because he already did it multiple times and people just did not accept him. He did it with Jesus, he's doing it with the Holy Spirit, and he did it as his true form in the Old Testament.
Interesting that you say that the Old Testament God is God's true form, which means that Jesus is, the not quite true form? The almost true form? Maybe Jesus is God's evil twin? I'm just being a little funny here, obviously. maybe a very little funny. Anyway, the instructor did not tell this person what any atheist would respond with, which is that we don't believe that the Bible is true in its depictions of supernatural entities. And we're not unreasonable in that, because even if you weren't already committed to your Christian beliefs, you would not just take the Quran's word for it that Allah appeared to the Prophet Muhammad. The God depicted in the Bible seems to have an attitude of, hey, let's start a religion and see how many people we can get to believe in it, rather than, I have an incredibly important message for every human who lives and will ever live. There is literally nothing more important than that this message get out. There would be no non-belief among sane and sentient beings if that God existed. There might be rejection, but no non-belief. The actions that the authors of the Bible believed God had taken, whether they were writing down existing legends or just inventing stories themselves, are not the actions that would be taken by the God that you believe in today.
What makes him God is because you don't know everything about him. That's what makes him God. That's why people look up to him, because you don't know everything about him.
In other words, if we could understand everything about God, we probably would be God. Shh. They can't hear you. I'm hearing you. So let me just speak for you.
You know what I've noticed? Your instructor here keeps taking what you say and then telling you what you should have said or what you should be thinking about it. I'm sure he'll give you a very good reason why he's doing that, but I want you to think about why you think he's doing that, because I think it's an interesting lesson. Nobody on either side is demanding to know everything about God. From your perspective, that's not possible, and from our perspective, it's like demanding to know everything about Peter Pan. Nobody's talking about that. What we're talking about is, does the universe look the way that we would expect it to look if the God of Christianity actually existed? And to me, it's clear that it doesn't.
I want to add on to something that was said earlier about the whole sending people to hell. You would be sending them to hell if you sent them to heaven and they didn't want it. Heaven would be their personal hell if they decided they didn't want it.
Okay, suppose you're given a choice. Either spend 24 hours in the company of the most repugnant person you can possibly think of, someone you would never want to voluntarily spend a second with, or spend 24 hours being literally tortured. No one in their right mind who believed that this was a real choice and not a hypothetical would choose the torture. No one. Given the choice, everyone would choose to spend time in the company of the person they hated rather than be tortured. Even if you don't believe that hell is literal torture, the alternatives that are presented are either annihilation or some kind of terrible state of being, described usually in poetic language that gives the same kind of internal result as being tortured would. And again, anyone who fully understands what that would entail would not hesitate to choose instead to spend the time in the company of the person they didn't like. So it's simply not true that anyone would choose to go to hell. People like me who don't believe that hell exists don't think it's an actual choice, and people who do believe that hell exists don't fully understand what it entails or what it takes to go there, which, how could they? Because Christians, all acting in good faith, all claiming to be guided by the Holy Spirit, cannot reach consensus on what hell is and what it takes to avoid going there. This is expected if God doesn't exist, but unexpected if God does exist. There was a lot more that was said in that video, but I did promise to be respectful of your time, so I'll leave you with this thought. Young people, especially young people in today's world where rationality is highly valued, are going to have questions about what, if anything, can rationally justify the extraordinary claims that Christianity makes. The people who run King's Academy, the Board of Governors, the faculty, they are all invested in Christianity, not just as a personal relationship that they might have with God, but as a socio-political movement. And demographically speaking, Christianity is not doing very well. It is not the fastest growing religion in the world, and in terms of numbers, it is said to be overtaken by Islam probably around the time that you become as old as I am. And the unaffiliated, meaning people who don't identify with any religion, are the third largest group on this planet. The people who run your school are well aware of these facts, and they have an interest in damage control, so to speak. And that's going to be hard if young people come to believe that there is no rational justification for Christianity. So they're teaching you to defend it. They're teaching you to always have an answer. They use that verse a lot. Have you noticed that? They want you to be prepared to respond to those who question Christianity, because if they can get you doing that, they don't have to worry quite so much about you questioning Christianity yourself. Because by defending a worldview, you entrench yourself in it. You develop instincts that make you even more firm in your conviction when your faith is challenged. This is a well-known phenomenon, and it's true of any worldview, including mine, which is something that I always have to be aware of. If you think about what was going through your mind and what you were feeling during this video, you'll probably understand that this is so. You are learning to entrench yourself in Christianity. And if you are watching this in class, then you're surrounded by I don't know how many students who are also learning to defend their faith. The video you're watching is certainly going to be followed by an instructor having their say, and it's possible, based on the whole Sean McDowell thing, that you might believe I'm secretly a Christian apologist pretending to be an atheist. In short, right now, as you're interacting with an atheist, you probably feel very safe. That's what a trench provides. Safety. I can't tell you what to do or what to think. If your parents are paying for your tuition to the King's Academy, then the world around you probably has a great interest in you remaining a Christian. And I don't envy anyone who's in that position. So I can't tell you what to do or what to think. All I can tell you is this. I've been an atheist nearly my entire adult life. I've spoken with thousands of people, both Christians and atheists. I've written I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of words on the subject. And not once, not one single time in my life have I met a person who has regretted climbing out of the trench and leaving Christianity behind. If you're a student at King's Academy or another Christian school, I would love to hear from you, so feel free to leave a comment below. And since I am putting this out on social media, I'll throw in the usual, be sure to like, share, subscribe, blah 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 for more great content, end of spiel. Okay, thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you in future videos. I'm David John Wellman, and the rest is up to you.